Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Dementia Chats. I'm Lori La Bey, and I facilitate these conversations, and I love them because I believe there is power and insights that benefit all of us from those living with dementia. And so our panelists are all the true experts, those diagnosed. My mom had dementia for 30 years, and it was through her brilliance that I do what I do today. And try to lift everyone's voice. And so we're going to go around and just have everybody introduce themselves. And Bob, if you wouldn't mind starting.
Name is Bob Savage. I'm 88 years old. I was diagnosed with vascular deterioration and early stage Alzheimer's 5 years ago.
Great, thank you. Jennifer?
Jennifer Butte. I was diagnosed 10 years ago. I passionately believe we can do something about it and live well, or better than many people think we can. I used to be a doctor and educate, and I'm just so grateful to have opportunity to do that for dementia now.
Wonderful, thank you. Pauline?
Hi, my name is Pauline Gordon, and I live in Arizona. I was diagnosed with vascular dementia about 8 years ago. And I'm very active in Dementia Mentors and Dementia Action Alliance.
Thank you. And Creaky?
Hi, I'm Creaky, Karen Creekmore, and I was diagnosed in 2014 with unspecified symptoms of dementia. And I am involved heavily in Dementia Mentors and DAA and other groups. And also locally, we're starting advocacy for a dementia-friendly community.
Thank you. And Lori?
Hi, my name's Laurie Scher. I live in Pennsylvania, and I was diagnosed, I think, 6 years ago with early onset Alzheimer's and frontotemporal degeneration. Very involved in advocacy, including Dementia Action Alliance, Dementia Mentors, and just really happy to be here.
Great. And Craig?
Hi, my name is Craig Yankee. I'm from Cudahy, Wisconsin, which is near Milwaukee. I was diagnosed in 2013 with Lewy body dementia, living well with it. I'm involved in starting to get involved with DAA a little bit more. I'm a mentor in Dementia Mentors, and also administrator in several forget-me-not groups.
Wonderful, thank you. So our topic today is going to be talking about coping with new normals. And Craig, I'm actually going to have you start, if you don't mind, since this was a topic that you thought of, and we all thought it was a good one. So if you can tell us a little bit about your new normals and how you're adapting.
Yes, I'm starting to do more things that I used to do. I was an accomplished trumpet player for 56, 57 years. Picked it up again back in December and realized that what I knew then and what I know now are two different worlds. I could play anything from Bach to Beethoven to concertos, challenging pieces of music, to when I picked it up in December, I couldn't even play one note. So knowing that I have a new learning curve in remembering how to play, what to play, and realizing that I have to have this new norm because I can't do what I used to do. I'm hoping to get there someday. I picked up my ham radio again 3 weeks ago, and used to be able to program radios and talk on the radio and remember people's call signs. When you're a ham radio operator, you have a license, when you have a designated call sign that shows who you are and what class of license you're in. And I used to be able to remember people's call signs and their names fluently, and now I know that I can't do that anymore. So my new normal is to write everything down in a logbook. Um, when I go for walks, I can't just walk anywhere. I have I use my phone for a lot of things. There's a tracking device on the phone that shows where you are. I can link it to my wife's phone so she knows where I am. It tracks how many miles you went, how long it takes. So if I'm not back in I let my wife know what walk I'm going on. If I'm not back in that certain amount of time, she comes looking for me. And she knows the general idea I'm in. I only make right turns, for instance, when I'm on walks. So I keep coming back to where I'm supposed to be, or left turns. And another thing is remembering people's names and putting their names to faces. I used to be very good at that, but now I can't do that anymore. So I have to ask people, and I'll ask them several times in a conversation to repeat their names because I don't have the ability to remember things like that anymore. Knowing that I'm not going to get 8 hours of sleep a night because it's part of Lewy body dementia. You don't sleep, and if you do sleep, you have very vivid dreams and night terrors that wake you up a lot during the night. So if I get 3 hours or 4 hours of sleep, I'm happy with that. I used to be upset with it and dwell on it, and we get very angry about it. But now I know that that's how I operate. So just knowing that I can't do the things I used to do and be content with it is one thing that I've learned to do. I'm running out of ideas right now, so I'll pass it on to somebody else.
Okay, Bob, you have a comment? Just a second. Let me unmute you. Go ahead.
I just want to ask you a question, Craig. You have still have difficulty around asking for help or for clarification? And for example, when you say you have to ask the person 2-3 times for a name, how do you feel about that? Have you got to, does that bother you at all?
It used to bother me a lot. I was embarrassed and ashamed of, I guess ashamed is a good word for it. Ashamed that I couldn't do what I used to do and remember people's names or what they did for a living and where they lived. But now I've come to terms with letting them know that I can't do that. And so far, the people that I've been talking to have been very receptive to it. Mm-hmm. and realize what I'm going through, and are very understanding, thankfully.
Yeah, I've had the same experience, but it's almost a relief for the people you're speaking to acknowledge what your weaknesses are, because then they understand, and if they do it right, they really help. And I've had that experience with some of my friends, and I would ask them that I have dementia now, and when we have breakfast or lunch together, I want you to give me feedback. And they do that, and we're closer friends than we had before. So I think there's a lot to do with us, how we are able to ask for help in a way that we're not ashamed of it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to go to Creaky, and then I think Jennifer's hand went up.
Yes. When I was diagnosed, I had no one to help me. No one. I didn't know anyone with dementia. I didn't have any support. And I got diagnosed. I was ashamed, all that kind of stuff. And when I started having these symptoms of not remembering, I would talk with my friends, and they would start talking fast. They're normal, talking fast, and I couldn't follow them. But I didn't have the voice because nobody knew that I had dementia. So rather than say something, I would back away. I withdrew to the point of withdrawing from all of my friends and family because I was embarrassed or ashamed or whatever. When I found my voice through dementia mentors and people that advocate, I have learned that it's an education for not only myself, education and patience for myself, and also with a person that we're trying to help integrate us with memory issues into society. And so, and I know that I've gotten this from probably Lori. I have a paper with the things that I need. I'm just the same as I was before. I understand everything you say, but I have dementia, and please help me with these. You know, talk slower, give me a chance when you ask a question, give me just a few more seconds to answer it and to let me respond. Don't change topics. Please don't interrupt me. Always please, you know, and then make a list of things I need to remember, like at the doctor's office, because I'm not going to remember them. And I hand them to, and these are doctors or fourth year med students that look at this list and they go, oh my God, this is great. I've never seen this before. And I'm like, oh dear. And so it's a learning. And again, it's patience on my part. Going into a restaurant, like Bob said, noises bother me. And so, and if somebody's talking to me, I need them to get my attention. I'm comfortable now being with a group of my friends. I don't need to listen to everybody's conversation. We're just being social. Somebody wants to ask me something, I just need them to look at me, and that way I've got that conversation. That works.
That's great information. Thank you. Jennifer, you had a comment?
Yes, but you're absolutely right, Creaky. We never stop learning, do we? But we need to remember that others also never stop learning. And when they don't get it, it's an opportunity, isn't it, to educate them. So when they don't get it, when we talked earlier about forgetting people's names and places and what they do, but that doesn't alter the essence of the person, which is more important than that, surely. So I just laugh about it if I don't know someone's name. But what I find important is that there are certain people still who don't understand that. So I like to use any opportunity I can when I hear someone complaining that someone here didn't understand or they forgot, to not get annoyed with them, but to use it as explaining, a kind of a teaching experience, to explain it to them, tell them a story. They love stories, to help them to understand. So nothing's wasted, even if they've got it wrong. Let's use that, you know, to help. And that's very good, isn't it? And humor, you know, laughing is a very good thing. And I think that's very important. But we also have to realize that we can't do things as we used to. And Craig's right. I mean, I've stupidly tried to restart learning my Russian. I used to speak Russian. My son's married to a Russian-speaking girl, lovely girl. And I used to be able to speak it, and I can't. So I have to accept that. So I've decided to go back to learning basic lessons on it to see how far I can go, and just accept that as my new norm. It doesn't matter that I can't reach the level I used to be. And I've also learned how to cheat more effectively. You know, there's such things as Google Translate and things like that. So let's use all the technology that we can to try and help us get around some of these humps.
Wonderful. Pauline, you had a comment too?
Yes, for me, the new normal, you know, I have a lot of disabilities I've acquired over the past 8 years. You know, I can't drive and I don't cook, and you know, there are a lot of things I can't do. And I need all kinds of written reminders for everything. You know, my husband leaves the house, he has to write me a note because I don't remember where he is. You know, so I have a lot of new normals, but I have a lot of other new normals. You know, I mean, I just kind of said, well, I'm not doing those things. Maybe I'm not doing those things anymore, but I'm doing other things now. You know, I'm really involved in the advocacy work that I do, and that gives me a great deal of satisfaction, and, you know, more satisfaction than driving gave me. So, you know, I'm happy with that. And I just look at the new normals. For me, a lot of them are good new normals. You know, I have more friends than I ever had in my life. I never had so many friends. And, you know, I look at the new normals. I try to look at some of the positive new normals as well.
Well, and I think that's wonderful. And the friendships are so important and so deep. too. Lori, go ahead.
So many new normals over the past 6 or 7 years. I still drive occasionally. We live in the country, and so I try to drive once a week to the grocery store and back, not far, but enough that I keep doing it. The neurologist said that my husband should drive with me once a month. And Creaky, to answer your question, she said, once he says that's it, you know. But whereas I used to love getting in the car and driving, going to see my sister, my cousins, going down the shore, you know, whatever I felt like doing, I can't do that anymore. To the grocery store and back is about the extent of how much I drive. Agitation and personality changes have been my most recent changes. And thank goodness I have my emotional service dog here who lets me just rub her belly to help keep me calm and grounded. Not only that, she's cute. And that's, you know, that helps me a lot, but without having her pet, I get like fidgety and I can't hold still. And that's, you know, that's a new norm that wasn't there before. Getting agitated with people, angry with people, trying to deal with that. And my husband Roy and I have spent a lot of our time over the past 7 years just coming up with strategies of how to deal with everything, coming up with ways I can make a bed, coming up with ways to pack a suitcase so I remember what's in it, but trying to come up with strategies for how to deal with changes in your personality. That's been a little bit more challenging, a little bit more difficult to do. But I think, as Pauline was saying, the nice part about the new normals is the new normals with the friendships. You know, throughout life, we've all had friends, but I think when you're dealing with any life change, such as dementia, whether it's cancer or whatever it might be, I think the other people going through it, the friendships you establish are a strong, good friendship. And you don't have to worry about the fair weather friendship. It's just a good, solid friendship.
I remember, gosh, 10 years ago when Facebook and stuff, when the groups really started growing, and how many people poo-pooed these Zoom friendships, you know, and they were like, well, they're not real. And yet what I hear over and over from you guys is they're more real than a lot of your physical friendships that you have, because you know, you're just vulnerable in these groups. You're open, you're honest, you let it all go, and you feel safe with them because they understand. Well, some of the things that I'm hearing you all say is really, you've come to terms with acceptance, and every time there's maybe a new glitch in the armor or something, you have to accept first in order to adapt. And then, you know, look at the positives of what is happening and what you still have, and how you're able to still live life fully. And I love when you guys talk about, you know, being honest with people too about what's going on, and then seeing their response of, oh my gosh, this is helpful. I didn't know that. No one told me that. And so I think that there is just such power in your voices, and being honest and authentic with us of, you know, this is how I deal with things. This is what clicks. This is what might not click at times. And this is how we can best communicate, you know, together. I just think those are critically important. One, probably for you guys, just to come to that level of acceptance that it's okay to even state those things, because what I was hearing was there was a discomfort and even a shame in admitting that your life had changed and you can't do what you used to do. But that acceptance, I know for me, any type of acceptance in my life always brings me to a space of peace. And I don't have to be responsible for necessarily someone else's reaction, but like Jennifer said, there's always the ability to educate, to help mold and learn together. And I think that that's so powerful in this process. I just think you guys are brilliant in terms of what you have to say. What about you know, we know we've talked before about adapting to the feeling of isolation, and we talked about, you know, COVID, you know, the society at large is kind of dealing with this isolation piece. And, you know, what I heard from you guys is that you kind of went through that upon diagnosis, and now you are connected through technology and through the communities and groups and things that you've joined. But one of the things I think people would be interested in finding out is, since there's physical isolation, and even though you have your groups to be able to reach out, everyone's in kind of a different situation, living situation here. But I'm wondering if for those of you who are living with someone, how that's going, because you can't break apart necessarily and have those moments. Or and Paul-Ann and Craig, I'll direct this to you two, because I know you both have spouses. And Lori, if you heard the question, I'm just wondering how you guys are adapting to the isolation with COVID and kind of being, I'm going to say, trapped with your spouse because you can't go as far. And I've heard people dealing with that in different realms, and some have said they've really blossomed, and others have said this is a little tougher than I thought. You know, Paul-Ann, do you mind answering that?
Sure. It's been harder, much harder on my spouse, my husband, because he doesn't have the outlets that I have. You know, his outlets were you know, he was going to the Y and he was doing things that he can't do. So it was harder on him, but we started doing a lot more things together. We started playing cards a lot. We play Yahtzee every day. We play Monopoly. You know, we started doing a lot of things together that we didn't do before, just because of this, because we are somewhat isolated. We still go for walks in the park. We go really, really early. And we go when there's nobody there. We don't go on the weekends, and everybody else goes on the trails. So we don't go on the mountains. We just go on the little hike around the park. And those are some of the things that we've been doing. But I think it's actually made a stronger relationship.
Wonderful, thank you. Craig, how about you and your wife?
We've been, I guess, fortunate. We've got a nice yard, so we've been working in the yard a lot, trimming trees. There was a swimming pool in the backyard. It was a big swimming pool, and it took us a little over 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, to tear that out. And now we're filling in that hole and putting in a new swimming pool. So we've been keeping busy, so we haven't had a chance to get on each other's nerves. My sister-in-law lives with us since July, and thank God she's moving out this weekend. I love her to death, but we've been getting on each other's last nerves too. So just trying to stay busy. When things do get tense between my wife and I, I'll take the dog for a 3-mile walk and get out of the house for an hour or better. Just trying to cope. Like Paul-Ann says, we're doing things together. We do jigsaw puzzles together. Things like that. Just trying to stay busy, stay active, and don't let the isolation get to you. I know my mom was in assisted living, and they're pretty much confined to their rooms. And I feel bad for her because she can't go anywhere except for twice a week. Maybe they'll take her for a walk around the facility, but no visitors. She can't go to church anymore, and I can't go to church anymore either right now. So learning another new norm that you can go to church online. There's online services, and I'm able to stream my mom's church through my computer She has a thing called Portal. It's from Facebook. It's like this screen, except it's a designated screen that you use. So I'll put my Portal in front of the computer here, and she's able to watch her church service through the Portal. So it gives her another outlet to get away, if you want to call it that, from her confinement. But just like Paul said, just trying to stay busy and stay active and do things together is working.
Okay, great. Lori, how about you? Then I'll go to Bob.
I think we've gone through our growing times. And I've often said to people, they'll say, well, with marriage or whatever, you know, people fight. And I think, you know, how boring would life be if you never have a good fight? You know, every now and then you just need that challenge to spur things up a little. I think we've had to go through some growing pains, as Roy and I both used to love staying up until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and then sleeping in on Saturdays and Sundays. And I can't do that anymore. Like Craig and Pauline, I'm not sleeping well at all. And so basically at 10:30, I need to start heading into bed because I'm going to be up at 5 or whatever, 4, 3. So I can't stay up until 2 o'clock and then be getting up at 3 o'clock. So whereas Roy was wanting to go to bed late and then sleep in until 10 o'clock, I was already halfway over my day by the time he woke up. So it was kind of, okay, we need to come up with some mutual things here that we can both live with and that make us together. And what we've experienced is he now sets his alarm for 8 o'clock every morning. And even though he doesn't have to get up because he's retired and he's at home, he gets up at 8 o'clock every morning. And that's true love, let me tell you. And we walk every day. We take this one for a mile walk, and then we put her in the doggy stroller and we walk 2-3 miles more. And that's really neat because we get to talk and hold hands. And so it's just pretty awesome. But as in any time there's any kind of change in life, I don't care what the change is, when there's any change, you have growing pains, and you both need to kind of learn it's a give and take, and you need to say, okay, this isn't working, what can we do different? And now, I mean, like other people were saying, we play games every day. And he keeps score of who's ahead over the past month. He can tell you who's won how many games and everything. He's got to keep score. And when he loses, he whines. When he wins, he gloats, you know. So, but it's fun. It's fun. We thrive on that. We grow on that together. I just think it's awesome to have him around. I'm not afraid to be here. Sometimes when he wasn't here, I was petrified being alone because I knew I shouldn't have been alone. So for me, I just thank God I have him around.
Well, that's nice. That's nice. I wonder if the board games stocks have gone up at all, you know, because I hear a lot of people playing more games. Bob, you had a comment?
Sort of single now, living in assisted living, but I got about 10 wives. You have all the staff that we have to deal with. I think you understand there. And I'm seeing with attention, I'm seeing the different personalities. So is how do you cope with it all? I mean, it was bad enough with one. And so, but that's really a new normal for me, is they're trying very hard to be relaxed, but they're normal like we are. And so I'm becoming more aware of the impact I can have when I get pissed off. I'm becoming more aware of that. I'm aware of their tension. And fortunately, there are 3 or 4 people here who are just loving people. And I sort of associate more with them. But what I'm finding though is going back to what we were talking about before, that my sense of concentration now is diminished to about a half hour. And I used to be able to do for hours on that stuff. And now I get very stubborn when I feel my brain freezing up, and then I screw everything up. So what I do now, and I have a little sheet in front of me. It says, Bob, when you're losing concentration, do something else or take a nap. And I do that. In 20 minutes, it's amazing. In 20 minutes, my brain is back to normal. And I live in a small room and I lose everything. Even though I say, I put this here, I know I'm going to see it and I'll never lose it and all that sort of thing. But I find now that if I lose something, I look for it only twice. Then to heck with it. Because I get so, the harder I look, the worse it is. I could trip on it, couldn't see it. And so these are some of the things that I do. And I try my best to keep my room in order. But I still forget a lot of things. So I'm learning an awful lot about how to take care of myself and how to deal with some of the issues that are changing in me. So, but I do have 10 wives.
Well, I like that. I look for it twice and then I let it go, because I think with all of us, when we've misplaced something,
oh God, we get
you
pissed.
just get agitated more and more. And like you said, it could be right in front of your face, or I know someone in the family, where's the ketchup? And you're like, it's in the fridge, it's right there. And then you open the door and it's right there, but they didn't see it, and if it's really important, I would imagine you'd continue to look for it. But if it's not, pop up later and you'll find it. What are people's thoughts about that philosophy? Jennifer, I'm going to go to you.
About what? Letting go?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, yes, we have to. We can't do things anymore, so we have to accept that and let it go. And then either find a positive alternative. I mean, what's important in life? Isn't it good that we're made to think about what's actually important? Isn't it relationships? Isn't that the most important thing? Relationships with people and, enabling and helping and supporting and, doing what we can to help, even if it's different to how it was before. And, I just find it almost exciting. The more restrictions we come onto, the more challenges there are to find other ways of helping or supporting or encouraging. I mean, one of my difficulties at the moment, which is why I love this group at the moment, is I can't cope with big groups. So, small groups for me are perfect. And I just have to accept that I just can't cope if the group gets over a certain number.
Go ahead, Bob.
I don't know. You want to go ahead? You were, okay, I would just quickly say, I'm having horrible nightmares. And I'm wondering how people have that experience and how they're coping with it. And they're always different. It's amazing how creative my brain is. It scared the heck out of me. Does anyone else experience that?
Craig, you've had issues with that. Do you mind talking on that?
Yes. Back in December, I was having 0 sleep to maybe 1 hour sleep a night, and it got me to the point where I was very depressed and moody, and found out through self-education that my statin drug was causing me to have night terrors and nightmares. And since I started taking that in the daytime now in the morning instead of at night, my night terrors have gone down to having them all night to maybe 1 a week. But like Bob was saying, it's amazing how your mind in your dream and nightmares and night terrors, it's amazing how your brain is still working, because these dreams are so realistic and so detailed. It's hard to imagine that I have dementia because of my dreams. I don't have dementia. In fact, it's like my brain is expounding on what it can do. And getting back to what Bob was saying too, and Jennifer, right now, and I hate to keep dwelling on the subject, but in ham radio, you can study and get different license levels. I'm trying to study to get a better license, but it's challenging, and I used to get very frustrated and PO'd, like Bob was saying, but now I know that if I don't do it, at least I'm trying, and I can always rely on the fact that I still have a technician license that allows me to speak on the radio. So I can fall back on that and just know that if I don't make an advanced license, again, it's another new norm. I have to live with it.
Great, thank you. And Creaky, you want to comment?
Well, the subject has changed several times. So, yeah, so excuse me for looking at my notes. Back on the acceptance. When I am aware of losing an ability that I had, it literally takes my breath away. And I mourn that. Used to, I would stay in depression months, you know. Now, again, with support, with people who are further along with their symptoms, I get what that's called a new normal for me. You know, I find from other people that have lost things that I'm able to learn how to adapt to other things. Like Craig and Jennifer, I used to play the piano and quit for 30 years just because I was doing other things. And a year and a half ago, I started, I was a classical person. And I was like, you know, I want to play. I've always had the piano. And so I don't have perfect pitch anymore. I don't know the scale that I'm in, but I'm able to play. I'm able to memorize. And I know music's one of the last things to go, but I'm enjoying it now instead of being rigid with Bach and everybody. Yeah, it's a blessing. And real quickly, what Jennifer was saying, you know, having the opportunity. For me, when I start thinking I've lost this, I stop and say, well, how important was it? You know, and let's try something different. Let's do what Lori did or Pauline or somebody else. They're doing that, so let's see if that works for me. That helps out.
Good tips, Lori.
It's sad and yet exciting and interesting sometimes seeing the differences and the changes. I used to play guitar and sing and write a lot of children's songs. And there's days I can pick up my guitar and I'm so excited because I remember how to play it. There's other days I pick it up, I can hardly remember how to hold it. I can't sing anymore because I can't hear a pitch like I used to. I can't hear, and so therefore I'm singing like my sister always did, and that wasn't good. So I love her dearly, but it really wasn't good. And now I sound like her, so it's time to just say no more singing. And I also was very fluent in Spanish and in sign language. I have a brother and sister-in-law who are deaf, and I only see them about once a year. But it hurts me. My sister-in-law in particular is totally deaf. It hurts me when I'm with her and I can't remember how to communicate with her, because I was the one in the family that always was doing that. I was her interpreter when the family was together, and now I just can't always remember it. And unfortunately, usually I forget it when I'm with her and not when I'm not with her. Right? But yet it's also interesting because when I'm trying to talk and I'm tired and verbally I can't remember how to talk, I start signing. So Roy had to learn 20 sign language, 20 words in sign language like pain, thirsty, etc. Because when I forget the words, I will start to sign. So part of me is remembering it when I need it, but then the other part of me isn't remembering it when I want to communicate with her. So it's interesting how the brain works and how it twists things, that it's here today, gone tomorrow, and then back again. So it's that roller coaster thing. You never know, am I going to know sign language today? Am I not going to know sign language today? Am I going to know how to talk today verbally, or am I going to rely on the sign language? So it's I just think it's really it's interesting, sad, frustrating, but it's also kind of cool that I have a husband that cares enough that he would learn some sign language.
Very lucky. Bob?
I have, I forget words very easily when I'm writing or doing something like that. And I just can't find the meaning, or I'll go online and find the meaning, but sometimes I just won't do that. But what's amazing is about an hour later, that word would show up, bing! And where did it come from, right? A little too late, but there's something there working to help me. That happens quite frequently to me.
Okay, great. One of the things that we had talked a little bit, I think we talked so much before we pulled the trigger on recording. So the question is, with the usage of masks, has that interfered at all with communication when you're speaking with people? And Jennifer, I'll throw this one to you.
When we were talking earlier, we said that if we know the person, it doesn't seem to affect us so much because we understand their body language probably, and their tone of voice and so on, so we can still understand them well. But the problem is if someone we don't know talks to us with a mask on, that can be a problem. So that's a distinction that we made. But of course, there are other ways of expressing. Only 7% is words, isn't it? But you're right, it's the facial expression, and a lot of that gets hidden by the mask. But it makes a difference if we know the person, because the essence of the person is still within us. The feelings they've engendered within us in the past are actually still there.
Anybody want to add to that at all? Lori?
I did a lot of sales training, and in sales training, we talked about body language and expression. And somebody's like this, then right away they disagree with you or they're angry. And we've come up with a lot of our interpretation based on a person's body language. And therefore, when you have this on, it really cuts down a lot of how you can read the expression. Am I happy? Am I sad? Am I angry? And that's very difficult. That's very difficult to interpret. Having dementia, we kind of rely a lot on reading a person's expression in addition to what they say, because as our processing time is slow, we're counting on that to help us understand what they're saying. And now suddenly we can understand what they're saying. It causes issue. Or even when someone's on Zoom and they've got their thing like this, and you're trying to understand what they're saying, but they've got their camera up too high or too low, and we run into that many times as well. So it does help us to interpret things. And so it's difficult.
Well, and thanks for mentioning the camera, because there's a lot of times I'll see somebody and they're like, you might see their eyeballs, or you're just seeing their chin, or they're up so close, you're seeing their nostril hairs and stuff, and it's distracting, and you're not able to to truly communicate fully with them and understand. Creaky?
Yeah, I just have to say, if you don't mind me saying, Lori had texted me, you know, are you okay? You look a little tense. And I texted her, I'm fine, but just exactly, I guess it was Lori saying about, you know, seeing the facial expressions. And again, this lag of time for me, we've changed the subject so many times. And so I'm thinking, I relate to that and I relate to that. And the subject changes and like, well, how can I relate to that when we're talking about something else? So I'm totally fine. It's just a little bit of a lag time. Back just real quickly on the, or did I already say it, the piano. I think I already said that. Just the process of learning it, it didn't help that I quit 30 years, you know, for 30 years. So that didn't have anything to do with the dementia. But being able to listen to a song on the radio and know the chords and the progressions or pick the note out on the piano, like Craig said, it's a big loss that I can't do that anymore. But the fact that I can play and memorize is just a blessing, and that I'm enjoying it and not so self-conscious about it. Thanks.
Wonderful. I'm just going to ask if anybody has any closing comments that they want to make. Bob, go ahead.
I just wanted to talk just briefly again about how I've resolved my nightmares some way. Is I do a lot of abstract painting now. And I decided one night to try to paint this guy. He was standing at the foot of my bed and just scare me. And I wake up in the morning and my body was tense. So I do abstract painting this way. I take the canvas and I put paint. And I paint the colors according to my emotion for each color. I do one section, and then I'm finished, and there he was. He was, and so I enhanced him a little bit, and the guy never showed up again. And I just found that a miracle. That I have him right there right now. I got him under control. And I was so happy after that, I painted an abstract painting on joy, put him right next to him. So there are different ways that the brain works that, and I never painted before in my life. I never realized the advantage of being able to express yourself through colors. And so I just wanted to mention that as a way of, I got rid of that guy.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I love that idea. I love the creativity, and I think a lot of people are tapping into some of those creative projects and stuff that they hadn't done during this time of, you know, shutdown and things as well. But I think it's nice to go back to things that you used to do, because life got so busy. I think that's a lot of times why we give certain things up. Life just got too full. So it's nice to see people getting back involved in hobbies or engaging in different ways. The one thing that we didn't talk about, and again, we talked about this offline, was now having, with this new normal, the ability to choose what are you going to participate in, because more things have become available online, and some of the frustration with that. Pauline, any comments on that?
Well, it is confusing, but I think it's wonderful that there are so many opportunities for us to communicate about what's going on with the virus and everything else. I think it's really a real enhancement.
I agree. And even though there's a lot more memory cafes and things like that that are online, or dementia mentors or DA, I mean, there's stuff I'm doing. There's so many variables out there for people with dementia. Yet for a lot of people, there's still not enough of them either, because they don't know that they exist. Go ahead, Creaky.
Yeah, man, like we were talking about before, I'm overwhelmed, gratefully, with so many support groups, like you said, Lori's and TIPA's and Dementia Mentors and DAA, and overwhelmed, and then the new COVID and the love, faith, and you know, the spiritual part of it, and two alarms with everything, and they're all colliding, you know, and it's like, who do I leave out? How can I leave this, and should I alternate? And my schedule works. This routine that I have works great. as long as I stay on. And when I don't stay on it, I am in trouble because I get overwhelmed, anxious, and I kind of shut down. And so I can't do that. So it's important for me to figure out this new normal that I've got right now. And I'm working on it. But I also have to live my life locally. I still work, thankfully, landscaping by myself. So I'm out in nature with God, and I have friends that I'm, that I've got. So it's got to be that balance, and I've never been balanced, but I'm working on it.
Great, thank you, Bob.
To ask you about your schedule. Could you give me a brief summary of what your schedule is in a day? Yeah.
You don't want to know. I mean, it's a list. I have 5 people, 3 in their 80s that I just do drive-by, quickie, porch visits, social distancing, do that kind of stuff. Dementia mentors. I have a therapist, every other week. I mean, it goes on. And then what I have to do, the things that I haven't done, I cut and I copy and paste to the next day. So that list gets longer and longer the more I get distracted. Now, did I do that item that was up there? I don't know. Let's see if there's an asterisk by it that said I called this person and that person. And it sounds very complicated, but for right now, it's working for me as long as I stay with that routine and put those asterisks by it. Because then I'm thinking, did I call? So I might call 3 times. It's okay.
Thanks for sharing that. Jennifer, any last comments from you?
I'm just grateful that it's people, isn't it? It's relationships and feelings. It's really underlined everything that we do. And we need to remember that to share it for others. As we said, we all do things with people, don't we? And we're just grateful for that. Well, I think Lori wanted to say something.
Yep.
I think I forgot now what I wanted to say. Oh, I know what it was. I think sometimes we get going in so many directions. Right now, because of COVID, there's a lot of free things out there. Free museum tours. Teepa Snow had some free stuff. Dementia Spotlight has some free stuff. I mean, there's free stuff. Lori had the sing along, and you got all this stuff. And then you look at your schedule, and it's like, oh, okay. Well, today when I get off at 12:15, I have someone I mentor for an hour. And then at 4 o'clock, I have drop in with Dr. Susan. And so my day goes every day of the week is boom, 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 hang up with one, get on with another. And then you're looking at all this cool stuff that's happening. You're going, oh man, I have to decide responsibility because I made a promise, or go do some fun stuff. And sometimes you need to say, okay, look, Pauline, I'll make a deal with you. You take that one, and then next week I'll cover for you or something. So you can do some fun stuff in life. But when you look at it, that's pretty awesome that we have all those things to do, that we have all that involvement. I think back 6 years ago, you didn't have a lot of dementia things going on. It just wasn't happening. They thought, these people have dementia, they can't get on chats like this. So you had Lori and you had dementia mentors, and that was pretty much it. So just the fact that now we have to decide, yes, it's about time.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead, Craig.
Very quickly, Bob and I talked about our dreams and how defined they are, and what you can remember. And I can't remember people's names, but for some reason I'm really, really good with numbers. I can go back to a place I used to work at 33 years ago. I still remember part numbers. I still remember the location that they were in, the dimensions of hundreds of items. So it's just amazing how your brain can still work in that capacity. But in closing, I just want people to know that you can have dementia, but you can still learn. But you have to realize that you're limited in your learning, but you have to be happy with it and not be upset that you can't do what you used to. But but be happy with what you can do and be satisfied with that.
Great advice. Pauline, any last comments from you? Nope. Creaky, anything else from you? Nope. Bob? Well, once again, I thank you guys. I learned a lot, as always. I think you gave some wonderful insights and great advice. So again, keep up the great work. Stay safe and healthy, everybody. And we'll see you in a month.